Hello, my dear gardening friends. Garden is quiet outside. Christmas is coming, and in this video I'm sharing with you the way Ukrainians celebrate Christmas. I was born in Ukraine. My husband, who is American, went to Peace Corps in Ukraine 20 years ago, and that's how we moved to Connecticut, United States. And we still celebrate Ukrainian Christmas. Look at my embroidered Ukrainian blouse. This blouse was given to me by my grandma, who lived a very good ripe age of 93 when she passed away several years ago. And I think this shirt is probably older than I am. It's made out of really thick and heavy flax thread fabric, handmade many years ago. You wouldn't be able to find anything like this now on the market. So I'm very happy that I have this traditional Ukrainian clothes. So today in this video, I'm sharing with you Ukrainian traditions from my past. You know what? Here on my laps, I have an embroidered shirt as well. And this is male embroidered shirt. I did this shirt when we got married as a gift to my American husband. And I must say that many years ago, when Ukrainian traditions were strong in Ukraine, before Soviet Union settled its rule on that land, the tradition was, when the girl was getting married, she would make a very elaborate embroidered shirt for her future husband. Well, this is not really elaborate, but I didn't want to do anything very fancy because I wanted my husband to have a shirt for everyday wear. So the seamstress in the village sewed this shirt, and I made these edges here in very traditional Ukrainian design. And if you would look at the shirt, it would be a shirt for everyday wear. I remember my granny used to show me her husband's, my grandfather's shirts, everyday shirts, and they were really washed out. And they had this very light, very narrow, very small embroidery pattern on it. So my husband loves this shirt. He wears it from once in a while, and he would be wearing this shirt for American Ukrainian Christmas. You know, in Ukrainian tradition, they live according to a different calendar, and Christmas is usually celebrated 2 weeks later than Christmas in other countries, in America. So for me, in a way, I celebrate 2 different Christmases, on the 24th of December and then on the 7th of January. And the way we celebrate Christmas in January is I organize a party for all the family and friends to come to our house, and I cook all the Ukrainian dishes. And through the years, all the family members look forward to this party because they have Ukrainian meals only once a year, and they look forward to Ukrainian borscht, Ukrainian pierogis, and all sorts of other beautiful dishes which I love to create, and it reminds me of my home. But this discrepancy of the calendar, I really think that it will be fixed, and Ukrainians would be celebrating Christmas with the rest of the world on the 24th of December. I believe, according to the calendar, it is more accurate. But for now, that's what it is. My parents in Ukraine, they will be having Christmas Eve on the 6th of January. So when I was little, snow looks so much bigger when you're little. When you have a little kid, suddenly snow is almost leveled to your head because you are this height. And I remember one year I saw a Christmas tree being decorated outside on the snow for the first time. Usually, many years ago, Ukrainians didn't decorate a Christmas tree outside. It would be inside the house, the tradition. And very often in Soviet Union, Christmas trees would be called New Year's trees. So Christmas would be given this secondary place. After New Year, which I think Christmas should be first, and then New Year should be the second one. That's why another reason to celebrate Christmas on December 24. So Christmas trees would be New Year's trees, and they would be inside the houses of Ukrainians. And one year I remember somebody decorated this very tiny little Christmas tree in the middle of their garden. They probably had to stretch the electrical wire all the way to that little tree. And they decorated the tree with these big lights, like old-fashioned big lights. And it was magical. I remember seeing it for the first time with all the deep snow. And usually at that time, the streets in Ukraine are not lit by lights, so everything is dark at night. And I remember we kids, we were going caroling. That's another thing what we were doing when we were kids. We would go caroling. And at that night, I saw that Christmas tree. And it was such a strong impression on me that it was such a small one among such a deep darkness, and just that little Christmas tree in a place of nowhere. So that was one of my very big, colorful memories from the childhood in Ukraine. And even now, Ukrainians do go caroling. And me and my husband and me and my kids, so far, we support this tradition. And we do go caroling on Christmas Day, maybe a day after Christmas, to several friends of ours, and they do expect us. And we sing several songs at their door, and we move on. So tradition, I must say, the tradition is living on. I remember that on Christmas Day, the Mass in the church was really early, like something like 5 in the morning. And I would be getting up out of bed, and kids, how they don't want to wake up. And we would be so sleepy, so exhausted, knowing that it's going to be a long day, 2-3 hours, mind you. The Mass would last, the Christmas Mass, with all this singing, all caroling in the church. But then when we get out of the church was fairly dark. And then Christmas with bells outside, raining nonstop. Usually Christmas was very white because we had a lot of snow. All the people are outside, and the snow and the light, it was magical. I remember that time very well. And you know what? I feel like I would love to visit Ukraine on Christmas season to celebrate it again with all my Ukrainian fellows and all my family. But because of war right now, I haven't seen my family in 4 years. First there was COVID, then there was war, and now I'm hoping that this war will finish and we would be able to see my parents hopefully next summer. Look at this, my daughter made this little Christmas gift several years ago, a little happy birdie right here. And look at this little fellow. I already showed it to you in some other previous videos, but I love this little snowman. And because it's such a cute one and it fits here very well on this wall in our library, I keep it permanently here. And I'm not tired of it through the year. Even in the deepest days of summer, this little guy looks very cute here. So we are keeping him here indefinitely. You know what? I do miss snow in Connecticut here. We are having fairly warmer winters than the winters I used to grow up in Ukraine. And now, last year, we probably had one huge big snow. And my kids are always looking forward to really big, heavy, fluffy snow where you can really play. So last year we had maybe 1 or 2, and this December was so warm. My grass outside is not even going into dormancy, which is very unusual for this year. But in Ukraine, winters were deep and snow was high, and it was cold outside. And I do remember coming out of the house and walking on snow, and snow will go. And I remember walking to school and listening to the crinkling of the snow under my feet. I used to walk to school in the snow, no buses, no driving to school. My school was not far away, but we had kids who would walk to school 1 hour through a lot of fields covered with snow. So I was considered to be fairly lucky because we lived fairly close to school. I do remember those beautiful feasts on Ukrainian Christmas Day. Christmas Eve was usually a very traditional evening meal without any meat. And then on Christmas Day, everybody can have a big party, a big table to celebrate with all sorts of wonderful dishes. But Christmas Eve was very traditional, no meat, 12 dishes, and we usually look forward to that special meal because there were special dishes. And I remember borscht, which is Ukrainian, you would say beet soup, very red soup. My granny has in her house still this big stove is there, and she would bake her own breads there, and she would have this long, I don't know, like a handle, the bread handle, and several times a year all her equipment will come out from the attic, and she would handle these big heavy breads, bring her back deep into this oven, which probably took half of the kitchen. It was really big. In the old age, people will sleep on top of that oven because it was so nice. So that oven would cook, that oven would heat the house, and you can sleep on top there. So now when I'm telling my kids about this wonderful place in the house, probably was not very comfortable because the floor was always cold, but kids love to have at least one chance to sleep on top of the oven, not oven, and sleep on top of the stove when they come to visit my folks next time. So Granny would, you know how Granny would check if the temperature inside of that oven was just right? She would take grits and she would throw the grain inside the oven, and she would judge by how quickly the grains burn. She would judge how hot the oven is. And then if they burn whatever quick enough, in whatever speed, I have no idea, she would put all her stuffed cabbage, jugs with soups and mushrooms and meat dishes, breads. She would put it all in on these long, very long handles. And I remember watching her, how she was doing all this. And that now, when she is gone now, nobody's doing it, at least in my family. Right now, my folks, they don't have electricity. So that stove is a real good thing for them because that stove can be heated by gas and by wood. And since my parents live in the Carpathian Mountains, they have a lot of wood. My father bought a lot of wood for the winter. So they are quite independent, and they are not dependent on electricity or gas for water and for heat. So that old-fashioned stove is still chugging along and proving itself to be a very reliable thing to have in hard times. And you know what, the last thing I want to say, if somebody from Ukraine, my wonderful Ukrainian people, are watching this video, I want to say that spring will come to Ukraine and roses will be blooming there again. And Ukraine will be on its road to prosperity and happiness again. I can't say happy gardening, see you next time, but I can say Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful holiday and celebrate it with your family and loved ones. See you in my next video.